Hey guys, this is Phil Nelson, and you are listening to my brand new podcast, Capital Creation Project, a show that talks about the up and down journey to find financial freedom through entrepreneurship. I decided a long time ago that I was going to choose the life of risk in hopes of gaining the reward, and it has been a journey of both good and bad. I'm nowhere near the end goal, but I've learned that this is all a part of the ride. Welcome back to the show, the Capital Creation Project. Today, I am welcoming back my good buddy, Matt Hart. He was in the first episode. He's back again today. Welcome back, Matt.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
Happy to be back.
So we are back and working at First and Main together.
Yep.
Your firm.
Yep.
And we've been, has it been 4 years now that we have...
4 or 5. Has it been that long? Seems like forever,
Yeah.
but you know.
It feels like it's been too long. It's been the longest 4 years of my life. I've gotten to navigate a few different seasons in the real estate market and chat pretty regularly about what's going on. And, you know, I think we kind of alluded to it in the last show. It is probably the worst in terms of deal volume, pullback on pricing that we have seen since the GFC. Even though it's not that bad locally here in the Seattle area, it's certainly the worst it's been since then. So we're going to kind of dive in today on the residential market and what's going on. And I'm excited to do that. Cycles and trends. Matt, you've been in this for 20 years now.
20 years.
20 years.
Yep.
You started when you were what? 5?
I was,
6 years
4
old?
and a half years old. Yep,
Wow,
yep,
that's
yep.
wild.
I know.
Good for you.
Yep.
Are you seeing history repeat itself? Are you seeing? I mean, like I said, you've now gone through probably a few different cycles.
Yeah.
What are you seeing now that maybe is repeating itself or is new, or what's your kind of take on what's going on?
Yeah, sure. So the market's always cyclical, right? So we're always going to see trends, highs and lows and all of that. That's just the market, right? This one is a little unique. And a lot of people ask me how it compares to 2008, 9, 10. And it's actually pretty significantly different. Back in, there was a lot of fear back then. People were losing their homes. They were upside down. There was just a lot of bad stuff going on. And so that fear was a big factor, but there was also, on the broker side, there was also opportunity in that there were foreclosures to sell and short sales. And I think it was 2009, maybe. I think I did like 16 or 19 short sales. And so,
Wow.
So there was an opportunity there that hasn't presented itself in this market.
Have you done any? When was the last time you did a short sale? 2009?
It's been probably 10 plus years ago, right? So, So this is a very different market, and so this is almost kind of a buckle up and hang on until things come back, you know. And what we talk about with our group is, your volume may have been cut in half, so now you can either be okay with your income being half of what it was, or you can, multiply your efforts in order to make up for that, right? So. So it's a very different time than it was back in the financial crisis.
What do you and I totally agree, right? I mean, 08 through 12 was ostensibly fraud is how we got there, right?
Yep.
Mortgage fraud on a wide scale. You're not seeing that now, right? Like, it's still difficult to get a mortgage. It's still a challenge. Home prices are still going up, even though, in the last, call it since 2022, May of 2022, where we started to see interest rates rise in a material way. You haven't seen the values pull back in a subsequent manner. Right.
Yeah.
Like they've either plateaued, maybe dropped slightly, but like, it's just not gone the same route. So like the fundamentals are still, in my estimation, still in my opinion, are still there for a very strong market. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're definitely not seeing price. I mean, certain price points and maybe certain areas we'll see, a little bit of a price adjustment, but in large part, we're either flat or even still increasing. So affordability is really the issue right now. And so that's where we're seeing, the buyers kind of hang tight, and, the hesitancy there is because they just went from, a 2 or 3% interest rate, up to an 8, right? And so that's kind of that we call it payment shock, right?
Yeah.
And and that's what these people are, they're seeing right now. And it's, and it's so people have a ton of equity in their home, right? And they have these great interest rates. And so some of the stuff that, I see a lot on social media is people talking to buyers, right? They're speaking to buyers, get off the fence. You can always refinance down the road, which is all 100% true. I'd like to see some more, our brokers and other brokers really, shift their message to sellers, right? Life has continued to move. And for the last couple of years, people who purchased with a 2% interest rate or 3% interest rate and have it really well, they're almost feeling kind of hostage in their home at this point because they feel like they can't move, right? But life has continued to, they've had kids, or that maybe they've gotten married, or maybe a divorce, or there's all these other factors that life brings, but yet they're still feeling hostage in their home because they don't want to get rid of that interest rate, right? And so, I think once we see, rates start to come down a little bit, consumer confidence go up, I think we'll see that shift in sellers getting off the fence too.
So to piggyback on that comment, I had a client just recently, to piggyback on the idea of there's still confidence, buyers are still out looking to buy. And I had a client recently, we missed out on a home in Woodinville, and I actually tweeted about it just the other day. Missed out on a home in Woodinville, and there was 67 showings, 9 offers, and they went 12% over the list price. And I think there's a few reasons for that. But I think chiefly is there's just nothing out there for people to look at.
Right.
The demand is still there, right? All those folks who, when interest rates went up, and they decided to go and rent, like, they didn't leave the area. They're still all here. So the desire to buy is still there. They've just been on the sidelines for a little bit. And the messaging has been, if you can buy now, do it, because you can always refinance later. You talked about that. You alluded to that. And while I believe that to be true, what we're seeing is a restriction on inventory, because for so long, sellers have had zero confidence in actually putting their home on the market because they just figured they're going to get beat up in price. I'm not going to be able to get the price that I want. So there's nothing coming on the market. Buyers are still there wanting to buy. And now that we've seen interest rates, kind of start to creep back down a little bit, like, it's like a flood. People are back. They are ready to rock and roll. Even just seeing an interest rate with a 6 in front of it, like they're ready to go.
Yeah, no question.
So to me, it is. I expect, as we're here now, 2024, and we're kind of starting this journey through this next year. I'm anticipating that this next, I call it quarter. This next quarter is really going to be the time to sell. I do think that there's going to be a big surge of buyers coming back. Sellers are going to be able to, I don't want to say name their price, but there's going to be more demand and excitement for real estate than I think we've seen in a long time and what was expected. Your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the pent up demand is definitely on the buy side, but it's also, like I was alluding to earlier, it's on the seller side too. I think we're going to get through this first quarter. And then, it's funny how much media plays a role in this.
Totally.
I mean, and I'm sure you experienced this too, but rates dropped about 0.5% a couple months ago. And I didn't even know that had happened. I found out because my phone started ringing. right?
Yeah, totally.
Like buyers and sellers are so in tune with what's going on, and then they see a little bit of hope, that glimmer, of, right? You know, and then all of a sudden the buyers are coming out like they're ready. They want to buy something. You know, they're either continuing to rent or they're not in a great situation, and they got to go. You know, and so they're just waiting for some level of confidence.
Yeah.
And when that does hit, it, you know, buckle up. Here we go again.
Well, it's almost like a New Year's resolution. Right.
Right.
Folks who missed out on it in 2023, it's like, well, we got to buy now. Like it's 2024. We
they put it off and put it off, and they can't put it off any longer, right?
Yeah.
And so the little bit of confidence coming from the media or whatever, and all of a sudden, here we go.
Yeah. So I think we've kind of already answered this, but I want to give some data to it. But I want to hear your thoughts as well. You know, there's a narrative out there that, you know, prices are too high, that, you know, maybe these interest rates are going to continue. They actually will hurt the evaluations on homes. What's your feeling on, you know, call it the next 5 years? What are we expecting prices to do on single family residential properties?
Yeah, well, we're so unique here in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, just with the, you know, lack of construction, I think it makes up about 30% of the market now. It's typically about 12. Okay, so
new construction, you're saying.
New construction, right? And so on paper it looks a little bit higher now, but that's only because the resale market has dried up, right? And so that's why that percentage has gone up. So you know, we're just in a unique place here. Yeah. And so what's happening here might not be what's happening in Wyoming or something, right? But you know, the market, even with these rates going up, what should have happened is prices should have gone down, right? I mean, when you look at, you know, just by the numbers, but that didn't happen here. And I just don't see that happening. I mean, as long as as long as the government keeps printing money and things like that, you know, well, but you know, prices will continue to rise here.
Agreed. Yeah, very similar thought process, right? Like our geographical constraints are not allowing us to build at the rate that we need in order to keep up with demand. You know, in places like Texas and Arizona, you can build 360, right? Like you can just keep going. And that's not the case here. You've got lakes and mountains and, you know, all kinds of, you know, just different topographies that's going to restrict your ability to keep up with the demand. As a result, if you want to be within, call it half an hour of downtown Seattle or downtown Bellevue, kind of the major employment hubs around here, like that could be Bothell, that could be Renton. Like that's not that far. That might be 5 to 10 miles in terms of just actual car driving distance. But like that, you know, you're so as a result. So point being that like there's just some constrictions that we have that other places don't. That's going to continue to make sure that those prices for homes are high. On top
supply
of that,
is limited. Yeah.
On top of that, I read a stat the other day that we are, since 2012, I think it is, we are at a deficit of about 400,000 homes a year in terms of new supply coming onto the market in order to meet the demand of the people that are growing up, moving in, that are occupying the United States, right? Which has now been we're now at about 6.5 million homes short of what would create a healthy market. So yes, it's maybe exacerbated here in the state of Washington and the Seattle area, but it's national.
Yeah, it's a national issue.
So to me, like this is the cheapest time. If you're looking to buy in the next, you know, year, 6 months, whatever, like home prices are not going to be any cheaper than they are right now.
And I think you can just say that across the board for the rest of time. I mean, now is now is always less expensive than tomorrow, and everything, right?
Right.
And so the government's been a little bit slow to change zoning, but that's how they're going about trying to navigate this is change some of the zoning. You're seeing a lot of mixed use, a lot of townhomes, a lot of things like that. They're tearing down a lot of stuff to rebuild just because we are so constricted here geographically. But it's just not enough. I mean, it's I don't want to say too little too late, but it's just prices are going to continue to rise. And it's going to make it harder and harder for these first time home buyers, or these, even move up buyers. I mean, honestly, even move up buyers, because And
what do you mean by move up buyers?
So somebody that already owns a home, and they need to sell that home, in order to purchase, maybe a bigger home or a more expensive home.
Family's growing,
right?
Either upsize, downsize, whatever.
Exactly. So that buyer is also feeling this pain, and that interest rate plays a lot of role in that. So it's affecting everybody. So it's just, it's always a good time to jump in the market if you can. And we're seeing a lot of down payment help from mom and dad and other places in order to achieve that.
It's shocking how many first time home buyers I deal with that have help from mom and dad in some capacity, whether it's the entire down payment, some of the down payment. Like it is almost every single one that I work with has some sort of financial help from mom and dad. I'm expecting interest rates, or excuse me, not interest rates. I am expecting interest rates to come down over the course of this year, which inevitably is going to but it's going to create more demand. Housing prices are going to continue to go up. I would expect that, a healthy number of somewhere between 5 to 7% year over year is what you can kind of expect for single family homes around this area. Are we going to go back to, 10, 12, 15%? No, that was unhealthy. Like that wasn't going to, that couldn't continue, but 5 to 7%, like I think that's pretty likely. So if you're looking, if you're wanting to buy, you're looking for that next, whether it be move up or just getting in as a first time home buyer, time is of the essence.
Yeah, for sure. And
quickly.
And to piggyback that is, if you're a seller, or you're thinking about selling in 24, I would suggest starting that process now. Call your broker now and get the ball rolling.
Call Matt.
Call Phil Nelson. Similar. Yep.
Agreed. Man, we keep flying through this, and I'm hoping that people are enjoying this content because it is, in my estimation, it's good content. But we are flying through this. We're kind of bumping up against the time frame here again. But again, Matt, thanks for coming on. I know we got part 2 coming up after this, where we're going to dive into actually the commercial side of real estate, which is the space that I really enjoy working in. So we'll talk about that next. But again, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
Appreciate it. And fight on, guys. Thanks for listening to the podcast.